a very intense person. I feel very strongly about things. I am sort of standoffish. I never did talk a lot about myself, I guess. Even, I never tell war stories or anything like that. And of course, today I have. And I probably told you things you never heard of before. March 9th, 1931. Today I sit gazing out of the window trying to recollect incidents of my past life that will be good to put in my autobiography. Wise men say to always look ahead and not back. But now I am going against this most decidedly. I shall endeavor to roll back the years and bring out certain facts which may be of interest to the reader. On October 28, 1914, a son was born to Mr. and Mrs. Harry Schreiner in the city of Des Moines, Iowa. They tagged him Donald. My mother, Minnie, was born in the city of Des Moines, Iowa on March 24, 1888, of Scotch and Irish parents. Before meeting with my father and being persuaded to enter into matrimonial ties, her name was Webb. She is a virtuous, dependable, and an exceptionally neat and tidy woman. She has made a wonderful mother, becoming an arbitrator in our quarrels, nurse in our sicknesses, a pal in our troubles, and a teacher in the ways of life. The teachings she has given me have done much for me in the past. I know that they will be even more help in the future. My father, Harry, was born on August 5th, 1886, in the city of Des Moines, Iowa, of German parents. He is a fine man, strong-willed and ambitious. My father has always been healthy and energetic, only having one prolonged illness that I can recall. He constantly drilled into us these four essentials: to play the game square, to be dependable, to be honest, and to hold our temper. He entered the printing business at the age of 14 and has been in it ever since. The oldest was my sister, Ethel, and then Earl was the oldest boy, and then Robert was the next one, and I was the last. I guess the youngest one, well, I don't think I had a new pair of pants or a new shirt. I don't remember having one until I was in high school, because my mother was an excellent seamstress, and she was real thrifty, and my dad was trying to build a business, so she made over my brother's clothes to fit me, so that's one disadvantage of being the youngest. And then the older ones tend to pick on the youngest, but my oldest brother Earl, he was kind of a mean little kid, and so Robert and I, we always stuck together and fought him.
Did that work?
Yeah, it's still the same today too. Robert and I are probably the closest ones in the family. Of course, my Ethel has been dead for several years, and Earl is in California, and we don't see much of him, but Robert and I still stick together. So that's Ethel. It was Ethel on that one. Here's Earl. This is Earl. Look at that bow on Ethel's head. Mom and Dad and Ethel and Earl and Robert, and that was when, see, Dad's got me in his arms there. I remember course, I was a pretty little kid when World War I was on, but we had a neighbor 2 houses from us, and she used to call us dirty little German brats. And we'd answer her back, she was a dirty old Catholic. Shows you how. I don't know how much more you want of this kind of stuff, but
that's great. But it was a fun neighborhood. Everybody dedicated.
Yeah. Of course, people back then, they didn't cook out like people do now, and there weren't many neighborhood get-togethers or anything like that.
Were times hard?
Well, of course, I was born during the war, and we couldn't get any fresh milk or fresh meat or anything like that during the whole war. And like I say, my dad was struggling to get a business started, so we never went hungry or never went without decent clothing, but we certainly weren't rich. Today is Pep Day in East High. This is real doggerel. We shout our challenge to the sky and to the frigid polar bear. We were playing North High School. Who stands ready, eyes aglare, to test its strength and vaunted might on East High's team at Drake tonight? Let's make him hear our victory shout and send the shaggy beast a rout. Well, I led my class all 3 years of high school and had all 3 years of junior high. I was the number 1 in my class. So I was pretty good in most subjects.
Anyone in particular that you liked?
Well, I liked maths. I liked geography and history, English.
What do you think made you a better student than all the others?
Well, I suppose, just like most of us, I inherited a good intellect from my parents, I guess.
Not hard work or studying?
Huh? No, I didn't have to study very hard. I didn't. That time I had a excellent memory. I could read something and it'd stick with me, and then high school, I was in and of course in junior high, I was in, we used to have the school operettas, and I even sang roles. And in high school, I was in several plays, and of course I was president of the student council in both junior high and senior high. And high school, I went out for football because I was a pretty good. I was small. I only weighed 125 pounds, but I was fast. But I got clobbered, blindsided, and ruined my right knee, so my folks made me quit. I was a pretty good writer, and I wrote a lot of poetry, and I was on the staff of the school magazine, The Quill, and so I guess writing was my major talent, but I didn't continue. I didn't do anything with it after I graduated. Now I have a hard time getting myself forced into writing a letter.
Why did you like writing? What drew you to it?
Well, just expressing thoughts. To the New Deal. From out the realm of Empire State there came a man some whispered great, whose magic wand, it was reported, would free the land from ways distorted. And so, without further mention, the Democrats at their convention chose this man in hopes his smile would swallow up the rank and file. Then out across the land he wandered, shouting how the GOPs had squandered all the people's hard-earned money, deprived their mouths of milk and honey, decried and voiced vehemently the government's bureaucracy, and told how he would free these leeches clinging to old Unc Sam's breeches.
I think
the
ability to express your thoughts in writing is something that is very valuable. I know it was all through my business career, because I could write excellent business letters and things like that. And I always had a good vocabulary, and writing builds a good vocabulary, because you have to use the words. You just don't memorize words by rote. You learn how to use them in sentences and use words that best express what you're trying to say and what you think. Grandfather was an engineer, and I thought that was a good combination for me, because I was imaginative, and as us kids, we used to build all our own. We used to build scooters and wagons, and then we'd build these simulated automobiles, we'd go over to Des Moines was pretty hilly, and we'd go over to the hills and have races down the hills, and we'd go down the junkyard and pick up a set of wheels, and I don't know where we got the lumber. Probably off the junk pile too, and because we never had any bikes, we never had a bought bike, so we had to build all our own stuff. So I thought engineering would be a good field to go into, but then, of course, when I graduated from high school, it was the day I graduated in January 1933. That was a week that all the banks were closed by Roosevelt, because they were having such runs on the banks, and of course no bank can withstand a run, because they don't keep 100% of their assets in cash, so people would get panic-stricken and go down and draw out their money, and so he declared a holiday, and all the banks closed for, over a couple of months. And then the Depression got real terrible, and one of the first groups that these companies would lay off were the engineers. So there were an awful lot of engineers selling apples on the street corners. So I decided, well, I wouldn't go into that. And of course I didn't have the money to go to college. So I worked for 4 years as a printer, because I took printing when I was in school. And of course my whole family were printers. And so I worked and saved my money out of $14 a week. And finally I decided I was going to go to college, and I got a full scholarship at Northwestern University. And I went there a year, the number one in my class, but I decided I was working so many hours in a print shop to try to pay I got all my tuition paid, but on the scholarship, but I had to pay room and board. So I went back to Drake University in Des Moines, and I went into accounting.
You regret that?
Well, yeah.
I never really liked accounting. It was too passive. You know, you're always known as a bean counter, and you're not in the real main flow of the business, although there are probably more accountants ahead of businesses now than any other profession, but sometimes I think that's one of the troubles with American business, because you have to have innovators and true managers to make a successful business, and an awful lot of accountants don't have that in their nature. They're too figure oriented. Graduated from Drake, and of course that was still, the Depression was still on then, and of course I was first in my class in Drake too, but I had interviews with several companies. I remember Eastman Kodak, and then the United States Gypsum Company offered me a job, so I went to United States Gypsum Company, and I worked there 6 months, and the war started. So I went into the Navy for 4.5 years. Well, it was just another tough break. What are you going to do about it? I didn't have them. I wasn't of the type that was like so many guys that pleaded a bad knee or bad eyes or something like that to get out of going into service. I thought it was my duty to help the country, so I did it. I went up to Great Lakes. My folks didn't know anything about it, and joined the Navy.
Where were you at this point?
Midshipman. That must have been when I was either at Notre Dame or it must have been, it says Bloom Photographers, 32 West Randolph Street, Chicago, Illinois. So that's when I was at Northwestern. I was just down at Notre Dame for a month, and new sense, real breakthrough in electronic navigation had been developed, and at MIT, and they had put the first transmission stations up in the Aleutians because the weather was so impossible up there that ships couldn't get any star sights, and the maps were so bad, and most of them were Japanese maps because the United States didn't hardly know that the Aleutians were part of the United States, and the Japanese used to fish up there, and so they had about the only reasonably accurate maps. So they had a real tough time, especially ships and aircraft too, because the weather was so bad. So they put the first stations up in the Aleutians, and so they sent me up there to oversee the construction of a training station, to teach the navigators how to use this new Loran system. I think Pearl Harbor was a disaster that could have been avoided. I just can't. I've never been able to believe in my mind that the Japanese Navy in that force could have got that close to the Hawaiian Islands without being detected. I still think there was some kind of a conspiracy. And, of course, I think we would have gotten into the war eventually, but I don't think Pearl Harbor needed to happen.
What did you do when the war was over?
I went back to work for the United States Gypsum Company. I was living at the Evanston Y. and Peg was working in the cafeteria there. She was a cashier, and she'd come down from Wisconsin. She and a girlfriend of hers had come down from Wisconsin to the big city to get better jobs than what were available up there. So I used to talk to her when I'd go through the line, and finally I asked her if she'd like to go out for dinner some night, and so we did, and I was impressed with her. She was a kind of a person that I guess I always wished my sons could beat. She was not a big social person, and well, she'd come from humble means, circumstances, so she didn't have any great illusions or anything like that, and so she made an excellent mother and wife. We'd been down to Chicago. The guy that I met in the Evanston Y, he was an engineer. Well, he was married and lived down in North Chicago, and we were down there for dinner, and we were catching a bus to come home, and we were standing on the corner in Chicago, and I said to her, "Why don't we get married?" And she agreed. So, you know me, how I am. Of course, we went up to Wisconsin, and she introduced me to her folks, and we went out to Des Moines, and I introduced her to my folks. And of course, my folks were unhappy because she was Catholic, and her folks were unhappy because I wasn't Catholic. So I said to Peg, of course, she got that nickname, you know, her real name was Ethelyn. I said, "Peg, let's just go and get married. The heck with them." And so we did. Diane was born February 21st, 1949 in Des Moines, Iowa. And Wayne was born on November 18th, 1951 in Des Moines, Iowa. And you, Ken, was born January 13th, 1954. You were born in a hospital in Evanston, because that was the closest hospital to Arlington Heights. And then Russell was born February 6, 1958, in Resurrection Hospital on the north side of Chicago. All the kids have been industrious, hardworking, and independent, and they all get along pretty well with each other. I guess. Of course, Arlington has changed vastly from what it was when we came here in 1953. Then it only had about 5,000 population. It was just a real small town. We were surrounded by farms. And now the city has over 75,000 population. It's one of the near suburbs now. Tremendous growth all around us, but it hasn't affected our neighborhood very much. The people have changed 2 or 3 times, I guess. Most of the people that started out in the neighborhood are retired, of course, and so many of them moved to other states or died. So it's I'm glad we decided to move out here. It's Arlington is one of the suburbs that still has some of the vestiges of a community. You know, we have a downtown area, and it's just not urban sprawl to the extent that most of the other suburbs are. I'm in awe of all the technical developments that have occurred, but I'm aghast at what has happened to society. And that's the only thing that's going to come. Look at the things that are happening in Europe and Africa, people slaughtering each other. It's just a lack of respect for other people. You don't, of course, they say the churches keep preaching to love one another. Well, for some reason, whoever created us didn't see it that way. I don't think they'll ever teach people to love one another. But if they could just teach them to respect other people's rights, that would solve practically all the world's problems right there. I always say there's only one basic rule in religion or morality, and that is a golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If everybody lived according to that principle, just about all of human problems would be dramatically reduced. That was my dad. This is a guy that was a circus performer. He used to let guys break stones on his chest. He ran away and joined a circus. They never heard from him. McNutt sisters. Twins, the McNutt twins. I knew that they were in some there's some shirt they relation, and they were in show business. This is my great uncle, Abe Lincoln.
There's no resemblance.
Well, I'd like to be remembered as a conscientious father and husband and citizen. That left the world better than might have been otherwise.